Welcome into Lion Pride Sports here for another edition of our Coaches Show. I am joined first by Coach Jed Stugart of the Lindenwood football team. I'm Andrew Rogers. And Coach, you know, we haven't talked in a while. How have you been?
Doing well. Yeah, just still grinding here.
And an impressive come-from-behind win against Emporia State in your previous game. You know, down 13-0 in the first quarter. What did you have to tell your guys at the end of that quarter to really turn their heads around in the game?
Well, to be honest with you, we really didn't say much. I think that's one of the things this season that we've really been trying to get through to our kids. And you know, when you're trying to build a culture of winning and knowing that you can win, you know, we've kind of been putting it on them a little bit. I think one of the things is, you know, I could see in their eyes that nobody had given up, nobody was worried. Really, it was just a case where, you know, a couple drives they put together, we had a punt the ball away, and then all of a sudden we kind of put a drive together and scored, and defense held, and we kind of started to get it together. So there wasn't really any magic words or anything that were said. It just kind of, you know, you got at that point when the game's early, you just got to kind of keep encouraging them, just keep kind of telling them, get out there, keep fighting, and they did. And you know, but we're doing a little bit more letting them manage through some of these things. I think we have to get to a point where we can't always be thinking of the right words to say or gimmicks and all these things. These guys got to learn to an adversity happens in a game and how you manage that. And I thought they did a great job with that.
And 602 yards of total offense for your team. Not only Cade, a lot of people think when we match up all this offense, it's the quarterback, but this is a lot of contribution from Nash Sutherland in this game.
Yeah, we had almost 300 yards rushing in that that game, and you know, it's I think way back when we first talked, we always talked about our identity, and you know, once we got here and put our program in, it was something that, you know, running the football and our rushing game always is going to be a priority. It's always been kind of our philosophy is to be able to run the football. So it's good to have a game, and we've had a few games where, you know, we're kind of seeing our offense grow up a little bit. And so, yeah, Nash had a heck of a game and just really, you know, played a lot last year too, but really starting to come in a little bit more as our featured back.
And then in the middle quarters, you guys outscored the Hornets 41-14. How big of an impact was that playing into the win?
Well, it was big just for the fact that, number one, they didn't lose their confidence, you know, being down, you know, and sometimes adjustments and kind of getting a feel for a team, especially like Emporia, they like to, you know, their goal is to try to get 100 plays a game, you know, and, you know, average game is anywhere from 65 to 70 plays. So it kind of goes to show you they try to get 30 more plays in their up-tempo, fast offense. So, you know, for our team and defense to be out there for, I think, 103 plays, you know, there is a lot of adversity there. But again, you know, a lot of momentum. They grabbed the momentum. They built off that. And the other thing they did is they didn't get complacent. We just kept grinding, and that's kind of been the other thing we've been trying to get them to do is finish games.
And I like how you mentioned momentum because, and it's hard for me because all I want to do is go back to the lack of early scoring because, you know, in all sports, if you score points immediately, whether it's your first drive or, you know, your first possession of the game, that's what really sets the tone. So when we go into this matchup against Pitt State, and of course they're ranked 7th in the nation, they're one of the top D2 teams in football and the top in the MIAA, how do we plan to change that and get that early scoring?
Well, you know, it's something, you know, we preach all the time, and we've kind of emphasized it even more. It feels like we keep building upon this, you know, our priorities. You know, our priorities that we've been saying is just our theme is the last few weeks is just do your job and do it the best of your best effort you can give. And also, you know, you got to be mentally ready to step on the field and play the very first down. I mean, the very first down can make or break. It's a kickoff or a kick return. If everybody does their job on a kick return and goes for a touchdown, guess what? You got momentum on your side. But if you give up a long return, guess what? They have the momentum. So, you know, it's constantly teaching, especially with this team, is you know, we're constantly teaching how to get flip over to having a true blue we can win every Saturday mentality as opposed to kind of how it's been in the past. It's always been our challenge, and we're getting there. So with Pitt State, you know, I think, you know, first of all, you got to respect who they are and what they do. You don't fear anybody, but you respect what they do. And they're a ball control offense. They're going to be opposite of Emporia State. they want to run the football, they want to keep the ball, they want to run the clock and get a lead and kind of hold on to it and not let you come back. So two different dynamics as far as it goes from last week going into this one.
And then stepping over the challenge, I like how you used the word challenge because this is going to be one of the biggest challenges for Cade Brister in this game. And let's talk about his performance against Emporia. 5 touchdowns on 20 completions. And for a lot of people, like, you think, 20 passes that were completed and 5 touchdowns, like that should happen. No, for a lot of quarterbacks, that doesn't happen. Like that is absolutely insane. 300 yards passing, had about 81 yards on the ground and also added a touchdown. I like how he's starting to outweigh his rushing to his passing because that makes him more of a dual threat than most teams now just thinking, he'll just run the football if he scrambles.
Yeah, you got to kind of prepare for Cade differently because he's been hovering right around 70% completion percentage right now in these last few games. I mean that's very unheard of. Because he's very accurate, and so 70, I think he was 71% completion, Saturday with that kind of production. We obviously don't want to just build our entire offense around just running Cade because number one, it gets really one-dimensional, and we've never felt like we needed to. I think in our early games, him being his first college start and things like that, he wanted to pull the ball down and run a little bit, made some plays, but I think Coach Eastman really. You just keep hammering, staying in the pocket, trust the pocket's going to be there, keep your eyes downfield, and he's kind of maturing and growing up quickly in that.
And then let's transition over to the defense now because one of the biggest things that stuck out to me in this game was not only that, they did allow, Braxton Marstoll to throw 63 pass attempts, but he had to because the run game wasn't there. The defensive front only allowed 99 yards on the ground, under 100 yards rushing. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's why when I was the D coordinator, I never really spent time looking at our goals weren't about holding somebody to so many yards rushing or so many yards passing. I was always big on scoring defense. I mean, if you hold teams to less points than what our offense gives, you're going to win, right? So. I think we are doing very well in our front against the run. There's no question. And I think that has forced people to throw the ball, take deeper shots on us, and really where we've gotten in trouble sometimes is if is our explosive plays that we've given up. We're a very solid, good defense, but we've challenged them a little bit. They haven't put a solid game together that they're happy with yet. I mean, as far as run game, pass game, everything, and really explosive plays is what's kind of made us look a little bit like we're not a consistent defense, and we haven't been a consistent defense. So. Yeah, when you shut the run game down, especially with this quarterback, he's been there 4 years. We knew how many times they want to throw the football, and when you take that many more attempts, you're going to complete more yards.
And when I look at Lindenwood, and this is what I picture in my head, if we compare us to an NFL team, it's like we have the Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski on our team because we have Cade and Eric Henneman, and Henneman had another big game, 9 receptions, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's putting up numbers that a wide receiver normally puts up. Yeah. How has he become Cade's favorite target?
Well, I think just number one, he's such a big target. Catches everything. If you get the ball within the proximity of him, he's going to catch it. Probably some of the best hands I've seen. But there's a chemistry there. I think last year they both were redshirted. Eric had to sit out last year and redshirted. So on the scout team last year, Cade and Eric were playing together. Same with Peyton Rose and a bunch of other kids that were running offenses against our defense last year. But this summer, and they're just there's a chemistry there. But when you have a guy that you get so many mismatches when you try to guard Eric Henneman. Cade knows that, and he knows one thing about him, he's so astute. Just recognizing defenses. There was several times in that game that he checked to 2 plays because he knew what kind of mismatch they were going to get on Eric, and some of those were crucial third downs that there was backside pressure, and he knew that probably put a D end even on Eric in his own pressure, and he was right, and that's how we completed a big first down catch. So understanding, Cade watches a ton of film. He understands defense, and him and Eric have just developed a great chemistry.
And we broke down the previous week. Now let's look to the week ahead. Of course, against Pitt State, here at home, one of the toughest matchups of the year. I can't stress that enough. But what is the preparation like for you and the team, and has that changed at all from previous weeks?
No, it really hasn't. We kind of keep our same routine. Now we've laid out what needs to happen. I just told them on Monday in our team meeting. I mean, if you don't match the physicality, if you come out, if you play as physical as you did against Emporia State, I mean, even their coaches told me after shaking hands that, they felt like we just out-physicaled them. And I said, if you don't match that physicality with Pitt State, that's been their tradition, that's what they've always been kind of known for, then you're not going to win the football game. So, number one, do your job, give us your best effort. And be as physical up front, even more physical, and you'll like the outcome of the game. So, we've competed a lot more, I think, since week one. We compete more against each other throughout practice, just to kind of get iron sharpens iron kind of a mindset. And so we have kind of increase that a little bit in our practices, but I don't want to change too much, because then kids really feel like you can almost create a monster, when you start doing stuff that they're not used to. They still put their shoes on one foot at a time like everybody else. We just got to go out and play our game. And
I don't want to knock on Pitt State at all, but the reason this game doesn't scare me is because I don't really feel like they played a ton of strong competition in the MIAA. Because besides UCO and the middle of the pack, Nebraska Kearney, they played against the lower end teams in the MIAA, like Northeastern State, for example. So when they come in and face Lindenwood, I feel like this is going to be their toughest task of the year.
Well, I totally get what you're saying in that. And I think week in and week out, you see, every week, just a tough opponent in the MIAA. I imagine they're saying the exact same thing to their team. I think coaches are always going to be talking about staying humble. Don't look at this team did this against them and all this stuff. And there's probably a little bit of truth to that a little bit. But that's why you can't get. We've kind of been talking about eliminating the outside noise. And just kind of focus at the task at hand and not consider a bunch of other things. So get what you're saying. I think they are probably saying the same thing, but we got to prepare, and respect the fact that right now they are 4-0 and probably one of the better teams in our conference right now. And then finally, Coach, just very quickly, talk to me about how impactful it's going to be to have these future Hall of Famers at the game on Saturday. Yeah, it's always a fun, this will be my first, last year I know being here not very long, I just really hadn't ever known or got to know some of the guys. It's kind of cool, gotten a chance to get to know some of our guys that are coming in, been here and feel like now for a year and a half, you feel like you're a little bit. So it's always exciting. We want to try to put on a good show for them and honor them, and so they know they have they're proud alumnus of their program. And so again, it's a little one, some of the outside factors, but it's still they're still part of our family. We want to give them a good show. Well, great, Coach. Good luck to you on Saturday. Good luck to the team taking on the top team in the MIAA. They're 7th in the nation. It's Pitt State. You'll see the Gorillas. They'll be wearing red and gold, but of course, we're cheering for our black and gold Lions. Thanks again, Coach, for joining us. When we come back, we'll be joined by Coach Nicolas of the women's rugby team right here on Lion Pride Sports.
See on page 4 that the projections need to be earthquake next Thursday.
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day. I have no time for this. So I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Wake the sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Welcome back to Lion Pride Sports. Again, I'm Andrew Rogers, here now joined by the women's rugby coach, Coach Billy Nicolas. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
And Coach, of course, you're from Buffalo, but now you're here in St. Louis. So what's the weather like? What's that change for you?
I'd say the Missouri weather means that you get all 4 seasons in one day. And I enjoy that. Yeah, it's a nice mix-up.
That's a very good point. But, of course, we want to talk about rugby. We want to talk about the team. So let's get right into talking about the success of the team so far this year and just in previous years. 3-0 to start this year with a lot of fairly close matches. How has the team shaped up so far?
It's been really good. I think one of the main goals that we have each year is we talk about just being better than the year before. So if we're evaluating our foundation at the beginning of this year compared to the last couple of years, we're in a really good place right now. One of our goals to start this year was to try and make some really competitive matches for us inside of our schedule. That's why you see those close scores. And there's no doubt about it. Those close games were exactly what we need. Coming off of last year's 3 national championships, I wouldn't say we need a little knock to the chin, but it's kind of nice to get a refresher and to kind of be humbled and know that we have a lot of work to do, but at the same time coming away with a couple of really big wins.
And it's like basically coming back to reality now. You're up there, yeah. you're in the sky, you're in the clouds, but now you're like, okay, now we got to get and grind it back out on the turf. So when we talk about as the team shapes up, who have you been most impressed with from last year carried over to this year?
I would say we have a really good senior class. Maybe not anybody particular, but definitely our senior class has shown some veteran leadership that's much needed. We have a lot of great freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, but we're finally to the point where this is my first recruitment class that's graduating, and being able to see them kind of set the standards and expectations there in practice is exactly what we needed.
And then 2 national championships in back-to-back years, 2016 and 2017. Yeah. Or was it 2017, 2018?
2017, 2018.
2017, 2018. So, yes, you'll get yours in 2019 now when we get that trio. But anyway, of course, not a Division II sport because you're not NCAA. You're student life sports, so it makes you guys a Division I sport. So how do you feel like that kind of a competition level makes you guys more humble in the regards that we were talking about?
Yeah, so for us, being governed by USA Rugby, we do have the ability to kind of pick and choose the division that we want to play in. So we have selected to play in the highest division possible, which is Division I Elite through USA Rugby. So for us, we're kind of a bit geographically isolated. Being here in the Midwest, there's a lot of teams, Pacific Northwest, a lot of teams Northeast. So for us, we travel quite a ways to get good matches and have teams come in quite a ways to get good matches for us. So we have an independent schedule. So for me, it's kind of the task of putting together the best schedule to making sure that each of our student athletes gets challenged at their developmental level each season.
And your schedule isn't big or isn't very long, I should say. When you look at a hockey schedule, for example, there's games for 80 plus sometimes, but for you guys, there's only about 15 games on your schedule. Is there a reason behind that?
A lot of contact. So it's about preserving those bodies for as long as we can. So we'll start up, beginning of September and go till beginning of November. And then we've kind of focused on strength and conditioning, healing up a bit, and then we get going again in February. But we'll go all the way till the beginning of June. So for us, it's kind of how do we maintain our health throughout such a spread out season?
And then with the season that we see ahead of us, do you guys play primarily 15s, or do you guys also mix in some 7s into there?
So for the fall, we're primarily 15s, and then for the spring, it's the challenge of having both 15s and 7s. So juggling both codes and coaching and playing both codes is always an interesting thing for us to do, but we've definitely had some success with it before, and it's exciting to mix up the codes and not just do one or the other.
And then as we get forward into talking, you talked about the seniors. Let's talk about the freshman class that you were able to bring in. We got to talk a little bit about recruiting in the break, and you guys brought in a huge freshman class, about 27 freshmen, if I counted correctly. Just talk about how you go about your recruiting process.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's not a ton of high school rugby locally as far as girls' youth rugby goes. There's a bit of boys on the high school side, but for us, it's kind of about getting out to tournaments over the summertime, reaching out to high school coaches and developing those relationships, and even at the international level, just kind of making connections there and seeing who wants to take the opportunity to come and study at Lindenwood and get a chance to play on one of the best teams in the nation. So for us, it's definitely a bit of work to get out there, but I think it pays off, and it shows in the success we've had, in the culture we've had, and we've been really blessed with really great recruitment classes the past couple of years that are not only great players, but that are also great people.
And I think you can really argue that recruiting class because starting with the success, you are able to now utilize that and be like, hey, this is a reason why you should be here. You know, not only is this campus, you know, beautiful to live on, but we bring a successful program to you, and you can help add to that. Is that kind of your main recruiting tactic?
I mean, I'd say our main recruiting tactic is definitely our culture. When a recruit comes on campus, we have a few recruits coming in this week, and I think just hanging out with the team and just getting to know them and getting to know that, you know, rugby is important for us, but, you know, the student-athlete experience is really highly valued here, and making sure that everybody's enjoying the sport while they're playing it, but at the same time, getting extremely competitive games is kind of the mix for us. So I would say it's a little bit of everything that kind of drives our recruitment success here. But it's been a blast getting out there and meeting new people and having people, you know, trust us to come in here and develop them as players and people.
And then, of course, when a lot of people look at the schedule, they see A and they see B, and some people don't really know what that means. Of course, the A and B teams, but with a lot of these freshmen that we're talking about, do they normally start on the B team, or do a lot of them make it to the A level?
It's a good mix. It's a good mix. I would say that some of them that might not have had a ton of high school competitive experiences might start off at the JV level and then work their way up over a couple of years. But we've had quite a few freshmen and new students come in and start off on the varsity side for us as well. Just kind of depends what level that they're at. And our main thing is that we want to challenge everybody. So depending on what level you're at, we've got a match for you, and we're going to get you some game time, and you're going to enjoy the sport.
And then going into practice, you know, you have to prepare for every game. What kind of drills and different types of scrimmaging do you guys do to prepare for different matches? Because like you said, this is a full contact sport, and this is no pad. So when you go about this in practice, how do you kind of like save you know, a player's body, in lack of a better terms, and prepare that for a game?
Yeah, I mean, our practice is pretty set up. Our periodization is we have a pretty light Monday. Our Tuesdays are a big collision day. So in those collision sessions, we'll go full go on that. We'll just kind of modify the space that we use so they're not as big of hits. Wednesdays off and Thursdays are fast day. So we have a pretty set schedule every week, so the bodies can get used to that, and, you know, we're ready to peak on Saturday or Sunday whenever our games are.
And that's my next question as we go into the weekend. Of course, Saturday, the first home game against the Kansas City Jazz women. How do you see this game going, and do you expect any nerves because it's the first game of the year? First home game, I should say, of the year?
I mean, I would say there's always a little bit of nerves there. If you don't have nerves, you're probably not excited. You know, it's just about getting the butterflies to fly in formation together. But I would say that we're really excited to have our first home match. Home matches are always special for us, and it's just a different experience than being on the road. And, you know, having a game Saturday and Sunday will provide an opportunity for a lot of our players that haven't been able to travel yet to get out on the field and have some fun with it and show what they can do. And not to jinx us and put my foot in my mouth, but we have not lost at home in 4 years. So I would say that's a pretty nice record to have going into this weekend.
Well, we'll knock on wood. I don't know if this is a lot of wood, but we're going to knock on wood. And then, of course, you guys follow up on Sunday against the St. Louis Sabres, which is kind of an interesting point I want to get your opinion on, because when you talk to your team, or when most coaches talk to their team, they say, okay, let's prepare for the game ahead. We're only looking to the game ahead. We're not going to look to the future. But in this type of game, you're playing two different teams back-to-back days. So how do you really set the mindset of the players, okay, let's get away from one game ahead and look to 2 games ahead?
Yeah. For us, we have a couple different people playing in both games, so that helps with the focus as well. But, you know, a continuing theme for us is what can we do better? So each week, it doesn't really matter our opponent. We're going to take some feedback away from it, things we did well, things we need to continue to work on, and the focus is on us. We have extremely high potential to perform as a program and a team this year, and it's just about kind of taking the fall to develop that and refining it in the spring. So, you know, each game we'll learn a little bit more and hopefully come together a bit more.
And then, are we missing any players this year, you know, key injuries or anything like that, or that the depth can really kind of overcome?
Yeah, I think even with injuries and with a great graduating class from last year as well, I believe that our depth is one of the things that sets us apart from other programs. We do have a large team, but I think we manage it, we make it work, and it's a great experience. And if somebody goes down, somebody else has got to be ready to step up, and that's kind of one of the things that we preach is you never really know when it's your time, so you got to be ready to go.
And then you came to Lindenwood in 2014. Of course, that's where your success all started. When you first came in, you led the program to their first Elite 8 appearance in 15s, national second place finish at Spring Sevens Collegiate Rugby Championships. So really, when you got here, you made an immediate impact. What did you kind of carry over from your playing career that you were able to put forth toward your coaching career?
I'm big on effort and energy. Work ethic is huge for our team. So that's something personally that I value, is just going out there and working hard and having a positive attitude towards it. And just understanding, what you have to put in to make sure that, you're successful as an individual and successful as a team. That aspect in teaching and culture-wise has been kind of my biggest driving factors for us. But it was quite wild coming in and only having, 13 student athletes, and now we're close to about 70 on our roster. So it's been really exciting to be just a part of that growth the past couple of years. And, a lot of that success has got to be attributed to the athletes and the support we have here at school and the facilities we have here at school. And
then how much did that mean to you, as a coach emotionally, getting that success right off the start? Just let us know how that meant to you.
It was definitely not quite off the start. I think those first 2 years were a bit of a punch to the chin. We ended up in the first year, when we made it to the Elite 8, we lost to Penn State by 88 points to 0. So that scoreboard will be forever ingrained in my head. It was a very cold day in Ohio that day. So for us to go from that within, quickly 2 years' time, us winning the national title and winning last year's 15 title pretty handily against all of our opponents. It's been sweet. It's been sweet, and it's been something that I'll really cherish. And we talk about having these little moments that we can kind of take with us beyond the field and beyond graduation here. And I have a feeling that everybody that's been a part of that is going to be, a memorable experience for them.
And so far in your coaching career, what can you attribute your success to?
Hard work. That's it. I mean, as cliche as that sounds, I like the Will Smith quote. The difference between me and him is if we get on the treadmill, I'm not coming off. I'm not coming off. I'm dying on that treadmill, or you're coming off before me. And that's kind of the way that I handle, my job and my reason why is to coach these players and see them grow as people. And a big thing for me is I won't be outworked.
And then finally, Coach, you talked about the goals of the team, but let's talk about the goals for you. What goals have you set for yourself this season?
We just want to get better. We just want to get better. We want to have fun while we do it. The wins are, of course, fun, but we could win a game and not have fun because we didn't play to our potential. So our biggest thing is, for me, is being able to bring out the potential of our program collectively. And whether that results in a win or a loss, we want to feel like we went out there and we put our best product forward no matter what happens.
Well, Coach, again, good luck to you and your team coming on Saturday and Sunday. Again, Lindenwood fans, this is a home game, so check them out here in St. Charles. For Coach Nicolas and Coach Stugart, thanks for joining me today here for this edition of the Coaches Show. I'm Andrew Rogers. This has been Lion Pride Sports.